On August 25, 2025, President Donald Trump ignited a political and economic firestorm by announcing, in a stunning and highly public move, the immediate firing of Federal Reserve Governor LisaCook via his personal Truth Social account. The message, brief but explosive, instantly reverberated through the corridors of power in Washington, catching even seasoned political observers off guard. Within minutes, the news was trending worldwide, with pundits, lawmakers, and financial experts scrambling to interpret the implications of such a dramatic action. This unprecedented move directly challenges the long-standing independence of the Federal Reserve, an institution designed to operate free from political interference. The Fed's ability to set monetary policy without pressure from the White House has been a cornerstone of American economic stability for over a century. By abruptly removing a sitting governor, President Trump has raised fears that the central bank could become subject to political whims, undermining its credibility at home and abroad. The announcement sent shockwaves through Washington and global markets, raising urgent questions about the separation of powers and the stability of the U.S. economy. Stock markets tumbled as investors feared the potential for increased volatility and uncertainty. Around the world, financial leaders and governments began to assess the possible ripple effects, wondering if this signaled a new era of political intervention in central banking. For decades, presidents have respected the Fed's autonomy, knowing its credibility depends on making decisions based on data, not politics. The tradition of keeping the central bank at arm's length has helped the U.S. weather countless financial storms. Now, that tradition faces its greatest test in modern history, as the world watches to see whether the Fed can maintain its independence in the face of direct presidential intervention. Now, with a critical Fed policy meeting just weeks away, the president's bold action has thrust central banking into the center of a high-stakes political conflict. The eyes of the nation and the world are fixed on Washington as officials scramble to reassure markets and restore confidence. The outcome of this confrontation could shape the future of American economic policy for years to come. The world is watching to see what happens next, as the balance between political power and economic independence hangs in the balance, and the consequences of this historic decision begin to unfold. LisaCook, a distinguished economist and policy leader, made history in 2022 as the first African-American woman to serve on the Federal Reserve Board. Her appointment marked a significant milestone, not just for the Fed, but for the broader world of economics, which has long struggled with issues of diversity and representation. Cook's journey to the top of the central bank is a testament to her resilience, intellect, and commitment to public service. Appointed by President Biden, Cook's term on the board runs until 2038, giving her a rare opportunity to influence U.S. monetary policy for years to come. This long tenure is designed to insulate her from short-term political pressures, allowing her to focus on the nation's economic health and stability. Her role is crucial, especially as the country faces complex challenges like inflation, global uncertainty, and shifting labor markets. Before joining the Fed, Cook was a respected professor at Michigan State University, where she built a reputation for groundbreaking research. Her work explored how social unrest, discrimination, and violence can stifle economic growth and innovation, particularly for marginalized communities. She also mentored countless students, inspiring the next generation of economists to think critically about the links between society and the economy. Cook's Senate confirmation process was highly contentious and closely watched. Critics questioned whether she had enough direct experience in monetary policy, but her supporters pointed to her deep expertise in economic history, her research on inequality, and her ability to bring fresh perspectives to the Fed. Ultimately, her confirmation was seen as a victory for those advocating for a more inclusive and representative central bank. At the Federal Reserve, Cook plays a vital role in shaping the nation's economic future. She votes on interest rates, helps set policies that affect everything from jobs to mortgages, and works with other board members to guide the post-pandemic recovery. Her insights are especially valuable as the Fed navigates persistent inflation, volatile markets, and the ongoing debate over how best to support American families and businesses. Cook's unique perspective, shaped by her academic research and personal experiences, has influenced key policy debates at the Fed. She is known for advocating policies that address inequality and promote broad-based economic growth, making her a central figure as the nation confronts new economic crises and seeks a path forward. Now, LisaCook stands at the heart of a historic confrontation over the Federal Reserve's independence, helping to steer the institution through one of the most challenging periods in its history. Her leadership and vision continue to shape the future of American economic policy. President Trump's justification for firing Cook centers on allegations of mortgage fraud from 2021, a year before she took her seat at the Federal Reserve. The president has argued that these allegations, if true, represent a serious breach of trust and integrity, qualities he insists are non-negotiable for anyone serving at the nation's central bank. The controversy, however, is not just about the alleged misconduct, but also about the timing and motivation behind the president's decision. The events in question took place before Cook joined the Fed, raising questions about whether past actions should disqualify someone from public service, especially when those actions have not resulted in criminal charges or convictions. The core of the claim is that Cook signed mortgage applications for two different properties, each listed as her primary residence, one in Michigan and another in Georgia. This is a detail that, if proven, could suggest an intent to mislead lenders, as mortgage rules typically allow only one primary residence at a time. The allegations were brought to light by Bill Pulte, the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Pulte's agency referred the matter to the Department of Justice, signaling the seriousness with which the claims are being treated at the highest levels of government oversight. Falsely claiming a primary residence can be considered mortgage fraud, a federal offense that carries significant penalties. Yet despite the gravity of the accusation, no formal charges have been filed against Cook, and she has denied any wrongdoing. Legal experts note that such cases are often complex, requiring clear evidence of intent to defraud. Critics of the president's move argue that the firing is both premature and politically motivated. They point out that the allegations remain unproven and suggest that the real reason for Cook's removal may be her resistance to White House pressure to lower interest rates, a stance that has put her at odds with the administration's economic agenda. Now, the legal definition of sufficient cause for removing a Federal Reserve official is under intense scrutiny. Legal scholars and lawmakers are debating whether unproven allegations, without formal charges or convictions, meet the threshold required for such a dramatic action. The president's decision, based on unresolved and untested allegations, has escalated what began as a personnel matter into a full-blown constitutional showdown. The stakes are high, with some warning that the independence of the Federal Reserve itself could be at risk if political motivations are allowed to override established legal standards. As the nation watches, the outcome of this confrontation could redefine the limits of presidential authority over the Fed and set a precedent for how future disputes between the White House and independent agencies are resolved. In response, Governor Cook has refused to step down, calling the president's action an illegal overreach. Her attorney, Abby Lowell, asserts that Trump lacks the legal authority to fire a Fed governor in this manner. Cook's defense: the mortgage allegations are a baseless pretext for a politically motivated dismissal. She vows to continue her duties, forcing a constitutional question that may ultimately reach the Supreme Court. By refusing to resign, Cook ensures this will be a landmark test of the boundaries between the White House and the central bank. The Fed's independence and her career hang in the balance. The Federal Reserve, or the Fed, is America's central bank, created in 1913 to ensure a stable financial system. Its dual mandate: promote maximum employment and keep prices stable. The Fed sets benchmark interest rates, influencing everything from mortgages to business loans. Raising rates cools inflation, lowering them stimulates growth. The Fed also supervises major banks and manages the U.S. Treasury's accounts. Its decentralized structure, 7 governors in D.C. and 12 regional banks, ensures diverse perspectives in policymaking. Governors like LisaCook serve 14-year terms, deliberately insulated from political pressure. This design is meant to protect the economy from short-term political whims. A central bank independence is vital for economic stability and credibility. It allows the Fed to make decisions based on data, not political pressure, anchoring inflation expectations and supporting the dollar's value. History shows that political control of central banks often leads to hyperinflation and economic chaos. The 1951 Treasury-Fed Accord established the Fed's independence, a tradition respected by every president, until now. Undermining this independence risks higher inflation, a weaker dollar, and increased borrowing costs. If markets believe the Fed is politically controlled, economic volatility will rise. The stakes are enormous. The Fed's credibility underpins the entire U.S. financial system. This confrontation could reshape the global perception of America's economic leadership. The legal heart of the crisis. Can a president fire a Federal Reserve governor? The Federal Reserve Act allows removal for cause, but doesn't define what that means. Historically, cause has meant serious misconduct, not policy disagreements. The Supreme Court recently signaled that presidents can't fire leaders of independent agencies at will. Cook's lawyers argue that unproven allegations aren't enough. The president's team claims the mortgage issue is serious cause. The courts must now decide if Trump's action guts the Fed's independence or upholds presidential authority. The outcome will set a precedent for the relationship between the White House and the Fed. The future of central bank independence hangs in the balance. The president's move triggered immediate political and financial turmoil. Democrats condemned it as a dangerous abuse of power, warning it's an attempt to intimidate the Fed into lowering rates. Trump's critics see the firing as a message to the board: comply or be replaced. Financial markets reacted with alarm. U.S. stock futures fell, Asian markets dropped, and the dollar weakened. Investors flocked to safe havens like gold and the yen, signaling global anxiety about U.S. policy stability. Economists warn that undermining the Fed could mean higher inflation, a weaker currency, and increased borrowing costs. The timing is critical, as the Fed prepares for a major policy meeting amid global uncertainty. The standoff adds new risk to the economic outlook for every American. This isn't just a political drama, it affects every American's wallet. The Fed's independence protects your savings, job security, and the value of the dollar. If the Fed is seen as a political tool, imported goods get pricier, borrowing costs rise, and economic confidence erodes. International investors may demand higher interest rates, increasing national debt, and risking cuts to vital services. The rule of law and checks and balances are at stake. The outcome will set a precedent for government institutions. A stable economy and trustworthy government are essential for prosperity. The fight over LisaCook's position is a test of America's commitment to economic principles. The stakes could not be higher for Americans and for the world.